Welcome along to the legendary Suzuka. This classic racetrack boasts a long history dating right back to 1962 when it was first opened. Will more history be written here today at the Japanese Grand Prix? 18 corners make up a lap of the incredible figure-of-8 Suzuka circuit, with 10 to the right and 8 to the left, for a distance of 3.6 miles. Average lap speeds around here are fairly quick. If it stays dry, then expect somewhere in the region of 136 miles per hour. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position. And Callie Mayer completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Leclerc, Antonelli, Aiden Jackson and Sainz, Hadja, Bortoletto, Fernando Alonso and Paul Aaron, Norris, Albon, Pierre Gasly and Stroll, Lawson, Maloney, Franco Colapinto and Pepe Marti, Ocon, O'Sullivan, Hulkenberg and Ollie Behrman rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And alongside me today, a man small in stature but big on comment, Anthony Davidson. Hello. Glorious Suzuka. It's a bit like Silverstone, an iconic track for which we couldn't have an F1 season without it. And so much for the drivers to think about around here.
Absolutely, Crofty. The only figure-of-8 circuit that we have on the calendar, and you kind of wonder, why don't we have more? Because it's such a good format. The drivers love this track. It's got a great flow to it, a fantastic circuit. Not the best for overtaking, but my goodness, from inside the car, it's a real treat for the drivers.
The formation lap gets underway then, and it's going to be interesting today to see how the dry conditions could affect the lifespan of the tyres. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
All right, here we are, guys, pulling up to our grid slots. Lando Norris down the order by a few positions. We're still starting within the top 10, but we had some tough times through practice and qualifying. Starting on the soft tires for our two-stop strategy here in Japan. Some overcast weather as we go to 5 red lights. Russell in the front row next to Callie Mayer. Leclerc, Antonelli behind. 5 red lights are off here in Japan for 27 laps as we see who can come into turn 1 with some advantage here. Russell on the outside holding on to turn 1. Antonelli P5, Sainz P6, Hadjar P7, Bortoletto P8. So we're going through the order. Norris already down to P11 against Paul Aaron in the Maserati, who did some pretty good qualifying times, getting himself into the top 10 as we go through the rest of the order. A couple 2x2s going down the order through the S's of Sector 1, coming up the hill after turn 7. Turn 7 has always been a tough situation for me, especially through these S's. Trying to get this setup as accurate as possible in this race, just very, very difficult for us as we continue through the hairpin of turn 11, Sector 2. Side by side yet again with Paul Aaron for P10. Alonso head in P9. So we go through some of the other cars here. Albon fighting against Lawson in the other Maserati. So we go through the rest of the grid. Once again, Lotus and Audi not having a great start to their season. Behrman on a grid penalty. I believe from a retirement last time out. I'm not quite sure. Leclerc having to back out against Jackson as he's holding up P3. Mayer's about a half second back behind Russell. And now down the main straight is where we're going to start seeing some overtakes probably. Paul Aaron about 3/10, 4/10 behind Norris, just outside of the points. No DRS yet, as it's in Sector 3 is the detection zone. Coming out of the 130R. As we go through the grid yet again to see what kind of gaps are forming. Russell, Mayer about a half second, 2 seconds to Jackson in P3, and then another big gap between Albon and Maloney for P14 and P15. That's over a second. And then another second between Hulkenberg and O'Sullivan as we see Norris hit the gravel out of turn 8. I think that was out of Degna 1 is what I believe the turns are called. Degna 1, Degna 2. As we see Norris ahead as we're on board with Aaron making a move on the inside of the hairpin of turn 11 on Alonso. Very good on board from a lot of the cars for this season, especially with our graphics settings. Moving on board to Lando Norris turn 16 into the chicane at the end of lap 5. We're going to see our first overtake on Lando Norris since the beginning of the race. That's going to be Bortoleto up in the P8. He's doing pretty well for the start of his second season in Ferrari. Albon making the move on Paul Aaron down the order, as we're going to see a lot of overtakes down that main straight like we did in the real Japan Grand Prix. At the time of editing this video, we are actually just finishing up watching the Japanese Grand Prix for the 2026 season. As we're going through the grid yet again, a lot bigger gaps forming. As we see Russell ahead of Mayer by 1.7 out at this point. Jackson almost 3 seconds back, and another 1.6 from Antonelli. So the top 4, top 5 are going to be pretty widespread. So we see Norris trying to put pressure on Bortoleto in the Ferrari still, as he has Gasly within a second. Now lap 7, Paul Aaron behind Liam Lawson, who's now in P13, losing position. Behrman is close behind. He's going to be looking to make a move. No, he is not. Paul Aaron's going to be the first to come into the pits for his 2-stop, and I believe we originally elected for a 1-stop race here in Japan. He's going to have an issue getting that front left tire off. It's going to be happening a lot throughout the season, like it did last season, more than likely. So Paul Aaron early in as he starts lap 8. Coming out of the pits, he's going to have a lot of time to make up, see where he can come out after some of the other pit stops. The nice yellow tires on that dark blue car really makes the car stand out. Or really stands out against the dark blue. We're on board with Jackson now at the end of their lap 8. Russell staying out, Mayer staying out. Jackson's going to be coming in for his pit stop off of these soft tires. A little bit of sparks flying as we see him coming in. A lot of the other drivers staying out. Sainz, Leclerc, Hadjar. There's Bortoleto down the main straight as we see Jackson coming in to his pit stop. See if he has a clean pit stop or not. Alonso and Lawson coming in. I believe Jackson had a good clean pit stop. I'm not sure. We didn't look, but Alonso's going to be coming onto a new set of soft tires. Stroll is going to be coming out. Stroll is going to be out on track ahead of Jackson coming through turn 1. See, he's going to have a lot of pressure on Jackson on those fresh tires. That's going to be too much pressure on the gas for Stroll into the wall out of turn 4. That's going to be a race-ending incident for Stroll here on lap 9. And that's going to be the first safety car of this race. Well, no, we had a red flag last time around. We're getting the first safety car of the season. There he is, turn 2, turn 3. Yeah, it's going to be too much curve out of turn 4. You see he tries to save it, hitting the brakes, and he just loses it. Smashing into the wall, losing the front end. That's going to be a full safety car here in Japan, forcing pretty much a 2-stop strategy for majority of the drivers. You see Stroll is out there in P22. Russell's going to be coming in for his pit stop. We'll have to look and see who all stays out, trying to go for a guaranteed 1-stop. It's gonna have trouble getting the right rear tire on. Callie Mayer in for her pit stop. Antonelli, that's gonna be a Mercedes double stop. See Mayer in the pit box. Russell's coming out. So no issue with Antonelli coming in. He did not have to wait any longer than he had to. And that's another thing I noticed in Japan. We have a declining pit lane. It's kind of weird. But a lot of the front runners are coming in. I believe Hadjar stayed out. I could be wrong. There's Albon coming out of his pit box. Pepe Marty come in. Colapinto coming in. Alonso staying out on those soft tires. He did make a pit stop early before the safety car came up. As we're looking through the rest of the grid, everybody's going to be on a safety car pit strategy. So we see a lot of our front runners on the soft tires. And now that I actually look at that Elec model Ferrari, the yellow mediums on that Ferrari look really good. So we see Norris, Gasly, Bortoletto pulling up to the rest of the order. And there is the animations for the safety car. Kimi Antonelli currently leading the Drivers' Championship. I'm not sure by how many points. It may show us here in a moment. He is sitting in P3. George Russell sitting P2. Callie Mayer P1 on this restart. I think we'll be coming in lap 12, I believe. No rain so far in this race. It's all overcast weather. No rain expected, as we basically have to sit through the safety car. And, you know, we kind of get our own little break during safety cars. It's a little bit rougher on red flags, but that is fine. So we're coming through the chicane of 16 and 17. We have, for the rest of the order, we have Sainz, Leclerc, Hadjar, 4, 5, 6. And then we have Jackson, Norris, Gasly, Bortoletto to finish up the rest of the top 10. So Albon P11, Behrman, the other Red Bull, he's started in last place and he's already in P12, so he's gaining a lot of positions from this safety car restart. Alonso down at P13, Ocon in the Haas, or the Toyota. The Maserati is still P15, P16, as we're getting close to his safety car restart, and that's going to be smoke coming from the Mercedes of Callie Mayer on this safety car restart. You can see all the smoke there on the right as she's coming through the 130R. It's going to be very unfortunate for Callie Mayer and her retirement. And the one thing I noticed on this restart, she is still marked as P5 on DNF. So I don't know if this was the game-breaking bug for this race. She DNF'd under the safety car before it could come in as we're on to the restart. But Callie Mayer DNF, and that's going to be causing an issue that we'll be going over here in a moment, as we see Charles Leclerc trying to catch up to Carlos Sainz. Callie Mayer at P5 still currently. Nothing is, like, it didn't put her down the order with Stroll. I don't know what's going on here. Norris fighting Jackson for P7, so coming back through the S's. Coming up this left-hander of turn 7. Very tricky section of the track to put the power down, to try to get as much ground as possible as we come through the Degnas. We see Russell just trying to get ahead as much as he can on Antonelli. We see Jackson and Norris side by side in the order. Going back down to them. They're going to be coming out for turn, what is that, turn 12, side by side. Jackson holding on the inside lane, Norris on the outside, seeing what they can do into turn 13. Little bit of a rough housing there from Jackson and Norris. Norris pushes through, Jackson gives way. That gives him the advantage on the next lap with battery. Bortoletto still holding on to P10 as we see the group start to separate. And there we see Callie Mayer on the next lap, getting shifted down the order, so I don't know what's going on there. So we see Norris trying to defend Jackson. Jackson can be making a move on the inside, maybe. No, potentially 3 wide into turn 1, not quite there. Gasly making a move on Jackson on the inside. Now Jackson has lost one other position into P8. Morletto on Albon into P9 now, as we're on board with Jackson. See, he's trying to keep up with Gasly and Norris. I've been trying my best to learn these S's as best as possible without hitting the brakes, but we can only do so much. Lap 13 on board with Gasly. It's going to be his opportunity to make a move on Lando Norris for P6. It's going to be an easy pass for him on those soft tires. Takes a little bit of curb into turn 1. That is going to be completely fine for him. So he's back on board with Norris. Russell still about 3/10 ahead of Antonelli as that fight is continuing. The gap starting to form between the top 4 and the rest of the grid. Lap 15 now. Norris trying to make a move on Gasly through the hairpin. No, he's going to be using the outside lane to his advantage, hopefully. Back end stepping out a little bit. As then we see Jackson trying to put pressure on again. Same move Norris did on Jackson earlier in the race. Worked for him in this favor. Through sector 2, down the hill. Up to 130R at the start of lap 16. Gasly's making the move again. This time, Norris loses 2 positions to Gasly and Jackson, so he was able to save up some battery and push through that situation. Behrman back into P10 ahead of Bortoletto. As we look at him going through the S's, you can see how much ground he is losing. We're now on board with Isaac Hadjar at the end of lap 16. He's putting pressure on Charles Leclerc. About 4/10 of a gap between them. Charles Leclerc coming into the pits. And what is going on here? Charles Leclerc still sitting in P4. Hadjar is showing a lap down. That means the rest of the grid after Hadjar is a lap down. With Leclerc in the pits, he should have dropped down the order. So it must have been the situation with Callie Mayer having to retire the car under the safety car to cause this issue. I have never seen, I don't remember if I've seen this issue last year or in season 1. But I know last season we ran into the issues where some drivers would get purposely knocked out of the top 10 because of a red flag. But this game has been out for almost a year now. But this wasn't really a matter of changing the standings because it's early in the season. Hadjar is pretty much locked in P5 unless Jackson has something to do with it. But Sainz, Russell, Antonelli, Leclerc are the top 4. And literally it's those top 4. Any of those top 4 can be on the podium. So 20 seconds between Russell and Carlos Sainz from those early pit stops. As we go through the grid a little bit, as we're still trying to figure out at this point of the race, trying to figure out why everybody is listed as a lap down. But I'm going to go ahead and put it on as that safety car restart retirement from Callie Mayer, which is going to be very unfortunate for her on the season. And so we see Hadjar in the pits now from his time. Now Jackson's holding on to P5. We see Hadjar, the overhead view, right rear tire having issue going on, so he's not the only one. Pepe Marty, Colapinto, they're going to be out on track. We have Paul Aaron in for his stop. So this is going to be early stops for the early... It's going to be an early lap for the final pit stops for this race. So it's going to be guaranteed 2 stop, if not 1 stop for some of the drivers. I'm not quite sure. There's still a lot of stuff going on here. Norris is within a second of Albon. Bortoletto is closing in slowly on Lando Norris as he's having... We've had a battery issue. We've been trying to manage our battery as best as possible throughout this race. And the overcast weather does not help. Just certainly does not help at all. As we see, you can see we're trying... It's sector 2. We're losing a lot of time. But lap 18, 1.2 seconds behind Albon, as everybody in front of Norris is going to be coming in for their pit stop. So it's going to be our final pit stop. We're hoping for a good stop. You see the Red Bull, the McLaren, and the Porsche. I keep trying to say Williams. So 3 cars that we're in the fight for. Jackson's down to P6. He's holding on to lap position. So anytime, if anybody's past Jackson, then you could be on the lead lap, but that's just, there's still a lot more pit stops to go. There's a Porsche coming in fast as we go to our commentators.
Well, it's been an interesting race so far today. Overcast weather with surprisingly no rain to be seen, as we've already had a safety car and a few retirements.
We almost saw another incident just now as the drivers navigate the S's. Jackson seemed to be pushed off the racing line after making contact with Albon, and with their final pit stops done, this tight pack of cars in the top 10 looks set for the rest of the race.
Seeing how the top 10 is currently, it will be a very interesting finish, as we noted earlier, that Lando Norris has been having some battery issues after a crash in FP1. And we wanted to make some quick work of some trackside commentary. Ted Kravitz by the pit lane exit. You talked to both Toto and Newey about their drivers' retirements. How did that go?
It went better than expected, but knowing the conditions that Stroll and Mayer retired. Newey shared his concerns about Stroll after seeing how he came in contact with the barrier after turn 4. Stroll had went to see the medical team as per caution, just to be sure he is okay. And for Mayer, it was just unfortunate that she had a mechanical failure just before the safety car returned to the pit lane.
But it's the second race of the season with at least 2 drivers retiring. So far, Stroll is the only one whose retirement wasn't due to an engine failure. How could this make for an interesting season in terms of reliability?
That would come down to teams staying on top of their component durability, and if needed, teams may start looking at other suppliers for following seasons.
That is certainly a development for teams to monitor, with the defending champion setting the pace ahead of Kimi Antonelli. It is now time to return to the action.
All right, we are back in the action. Norris still sitting back in P9 with Behrman close behind. Lap 20 of 27. Russell still about 1.6 seconds ahead of Antonelli, so the order has pretty much settled itself. We see Behrman trying to make an attempt here on the inside of turn 1. There's going to be a front wing end plate and a little bit of contact on Behrman. Whose front wing end plate was that? We're going to have to go ahead and see here. And it looks like it's going to be Albon who is slow ahead of Gasly. So that's going to be a front wing end plate. You can see it there from the distance. There it goes again. On the onboard from Norris, you can see his left front wing end plate is missing. That is going to be a game. That's going to be a race-ending incident for Albon. I believe he had contact between him and Gasly. It's going to be very unfortunate, but that is going to give us some breathing room against Gasly and Behrman, so we can hopefully secure P7. Later down the order, same lap, on board with Liam Lawson, who's defending against Ocon. He's coming through the Degnas out of turn 9, and that's going to be an engine failure for Liam Lawson in the Maserati, and I believe that's his second retirement of the season. He retired in the home opener, or the season opener in Australia. He's going to be retiring here in Japan. It's going to be a rough start for him and Maserati. It's going to be a lot of work for them as we're going through the onboards to see where he stops. You see he's right there on the outside of turn 10 before the hairpin. It's going to be very unfortunate for him. So we see Russell still about a second and a half ahead of Antonelli as they're coming through the S's now, lap 23. But that's another thing I noticed. The top 4 are on the lead lap. Everybody else is a lap down. So lap 23 for Russell means lap 22 for everyone else. So Gasly going to lap 25 means Russell in the top 4 going to the final lap. So we have a lap and a half of racing left to go. Bortoletto is about 4 seconds back behind Norris as he just lost position to Gasly. And we're moving on to the final lap. Coming down the hill of Sector 2, start of Sector 3, coming up to 130R. As we see George Russell coming home in Japan for the win for Konnersport and himself to defend his championship. Coming through the hairpin of turn 17 and 18, and close behind him is, I believe, going to be the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, who won the race in Australia, and that's going to be the McLaren of Carlos Sainz, I believe.
Here's the checkered flag. Here's our winner. By George, he's done it. Russell wins.
Well, they were clearly at one with their car today, Crofty, out there. New regulations, of course, for this season. And you can tell that they've done their homework. They've studied, they've put probably a lot of time in the simulator, worked well with their engineer. And, I mean, they were absolute joy to watch out there today. They really were.
Well, it's been a long wait for many of our drivers, but the wait is always worth it. Bring them out to the awaiting crowd. It's time for our podium celebrations. By George, he was good today. The top step awaits for George Russell. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
All right, so I actually don't know if it was the safety car or not, because I completely did not realize that everybody except for the top 4 were a lap down. You can see it here on the timesheet. I'm not sure what happened or when it happened, but I was wondering why Hadjar was ahead of Charles Leclerc, but he just unlapped himself and he was way far ahead. But the battle got pretty close between Lando Norris, Aiden Jackson, and Pierre Gasly there at the end of the race. But our top 10, George Russell, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Carlos Sainz for our top 3. Leclerc, Hadjar, Gasly, Jackson, Norris, Bortoletto, and Behrman. So some decent points for Mercedes, Konnersport, McLaren, Ferrari, and Aiden Jackson with Red Bull. Oh yeah, Isaac Hadjar with the Porsche Williams as well. I know Albon wasn't. I don't know what happened to Albon actually. Where did he go? He's down at P15. Looked like he had issues. Liam Lawson with a retirement later in the race. Lance Stroll retiring, causing a safety car, and then Callie Mayer retiring right before the safety car ended. Now we're gonna go into the standings here. Andrea Kimi Antonelli leads George Russell by 10 points. Carlos Sainz 16 points behind, matched with Charles Leclerc, so they're tied for points between Ferrari and Monster Energy McLaren, and then Callie and Norris are 4 points apart from each other. Isaac Hadjar tied on points with Lando Norris and then Pierre Gasly as well, so a 3-way tie for P6 between Norris, Hadjar, and Gasly. Jackson sitting at 6 points, Albon with 2, Behrman on the board with 2, so top 12 are on the board for this grid. And that is still 5 teams without any scoring points so far in this season. And you guys saw the notice at the beginning of the season. We're gonna go ahead and change up the schedule of this season calendar. Kind of liven things up. We're gonna adjust some ratings for some drivers and then go from there as well. So let's go to the race director, see what happened. Lando Norris exceeding track limits warning. Collision with Gasly warning, track limit warning. Lance Stroll terminal damage from DNF earlier in the race, lap 9. Callie Mayer retiring, like I said. And yeah, so we're gonna have to definitely pay attention. You guys have already seen it by the time this we've gotten to this point in the race, but yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and look back at the replay and see what exactly happened, causing the majority of the grid to be 1 lap down here in the Japanese Grand Prix. It was a fun race, it was a challenging race, and I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the next one.